Today I have for you the best of 2021, and I cannot wait to show you what they are. Let's get started. DIY, I am going to take 3 of these Target dollar spot windows, and I am going to remove all the hardware as well as the plastic backing that they each have. I am then going to put them together or join them together using hot glue and staples, and I'm making sure that I am stapling them on the back of them. Find the remedy, or would you stay with me now till the morning light? Before you turn away, I just want you to know that I didn't throw your stuff away. Before you make up your mind that I'm nowhere to find, I'm standing right here. I know that I told you we're over, I swear that I'm sober. Just listen, I miss you. And I know that I said all these things, but now when you're with her, I can see that you miss me. I am now going to start painting them. I am going to paint the middle cross, the cross section, and I am going to paint them using Waverly chalk paint in the ink. And then all the around rim is going to be white, and I am going to use Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. And I'm only going to do one coat of each. Once everything was dry, I am now going to take these florals from the Dollar Tree. Aren't they beautiful? I love these. I'm going to just cut all the little branches off of it, and I'm going to join them together using some nautical rope from the Dollar Tree, wrap it around, and then hot glue it to the bottom of the window. I am now going to take this welcome, I think it's like a galvanized sign from Target Dollar Spot, and I'm just going to hot glue it towards the bottom, but right above the flower arrangement. And then I am going to put back one of the little claw hook hanging thingies that it originally had, just one. It's not too heavy, and that way I can hang it if I want it, or I can also place it on anywhere, like on a mantle or anywhere. But look how beautiful it looks. With just a few dollars, you have a custom little farmhouse style sign that I absolutely love. Alright guys, so for this DIY, I am going to take one of these cookie trays from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to give it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. Stay with me now till the morning light. Before you turn away, I just want you to know that I didn't throw your stuff away. Before you make up your mind that I'm nowhere to find, I'm standing right here. I know that I told
Once the top was dry, I also did the bottom.
I swear that I'm sober. Just listen, I miss you. And I know that I said all these things, but now when you're with her, I can see that you miss me. Would you stay till the morning light? Or would you follow me? Or would you let it be?
Once it was all dry, I am going to take this decal from the Dollar Tree and I am going to place it on the tray. I am going to kind of tilt it a little bit, and what it turned out to be super beautiful is that it actually hangs over the edges, which I think is kind of like unique, and I really love the way it just turned out. And it kind of goes with the whole infinity kind of love, you know, like it overflows through the edges. I don't know. I just thought that to myself. So the way I'm doing it here is I'm sticking it from the middle out, making sure that I go little by little so that way I can go through the bends on the sides and then it flows very, very smoothly.
I leave tonight, we could do this right. We'll find the remedy. Or would you stay with me now till the morning light? Till the morning light. 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 Till the morning light.
All right, so now I'm going to take these leftover little pots from succulents from the Dollar Tree. I kept them because I just thought they were cute size, and I'm just going to add some E6000 as well as hot glue and hot glue them to each corner on the bottom of the tray.
Maybe I'm just too weak, maybe I'm just afraid of being alone. Well, I don't care, 'cause right now I feel the love that we said we would burn. Oh, I know that you feel it too. I know that I told you we're over. I swear that I'm sober. Just listen, I miss you. And I know that I said all these things, but now when you're with her, I can see that you miss me. Would you stay till the morning light? Or would you follow me? Or would you let it be? If I leave tonight, we could do this right. We'll find the remedy. Or would you stay with me now?
I am now going to take some of this matte Mod Podge and just seal everything. So I'm just going to cover it, give it one pretty heavy coat on the top. I'm not going to do the bottom because it's not really needed. And that way it's nice and sealed and protected, and we'll be done with this one, guys. I so love this one. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that I did this. I think it turned out super chic but very farmhouse.
Stay till the morning light. Or would you follow me? Or would you let it be? If I leave tonight, we could do this right. We'll find the remedy. Or would you stay with me now till the morning? Would you stay till the morning light? Or would you follow me? Or would you let it be? If I leave tonight,
All right, so we are going to start with this beautiful cutting board. Literally, it was like this. I saw it from far and I rushed to it to grab it. It is beautiful, sturdy, solid wood, and all it needed was just a nice little scrub. So that's what I'm doing here, and then I'm making sure that it's very, very dry. Although, you see in the end, it wasn't that dry, but it worked out, it worked out. So just, again, gave it a scrub, dried it very well, and then using my Cricut, I designed a decal that says Fresh Honey, and some other little details. So I'm just going to apply it right to the center of this cutting board.
I don't wanna stay here, no. Ain't gonna keep it low now. If you wanna go, let's go. Let's wrap it up and hit the road. I just got an awesome vibe. Striking the winner post now. Liberty's on my mind. We've taken off, we've left the ground. You gotta understand that we get one chance, one chance. You will never regret the things that we'll do. 'Cause
And you're going to see here what I'm talking about. Apparently the board was not fully dry because this decal was not sticking. And I've used this decal a lot, or this vinyl, and it was just not sticking. But once it was there, it kind of, stuck. but it just gave me the hardest time. So I'm going to speed it up here for you because I'm sure you don't want to see me struggle with that. But just to let you know, things like this happen. You just have to take it very slowly, one part at a time, and it'll work out. So, but that's about it for this one. Because it was already so beautiful and in that beautiful black tone, I did not want to mess with it anymore. I just wanted to add something really cute, and I think it turned out super adorable, fresh new look, and it's in my kitchen and I love it. Alright guys, so for this next DIY, I am going to take this round plaque from the Target dollar spot. It was $3 and it's actually a pretty good size. I'm going to remove the jute twine as you see me doing here, and then I am going to tape a couple of spots, one on the bottom and one on the top, and then I am going to give it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum milk paint in the Highline blue.
Sailors passing on the street, are you ready for peace? Ships are filling up fast.
I am now going to tape over the blue section, and I am going to make a couple thicker lines, and I am going to stain them using Waverly Antiquing Wax and then removing them just to give it a little bit more of a stain antique look.
Forget bad memories and leave those hurting knees behind. Birds are filling up the sky, are you willing to try? Sing along as they hum and be fulfilled. Many more will come, many more under the sun.
And I did get a little bit of bleed through on this one as well. So to fix it, I did use a wet rag to remove it, and a lot of it removed. Now, it was not perfect, and it was one of those moments where I just thought if I keep trying to fix it, I think I'm just going to make it worse. So I just left it as is. It's by all means is not perfect, but I think it still turned out really, really cute. Using my Cricut, I cut out the word welcome and replace the O with a paw, which I think is super cute. And I'm going to place it towards the bottom of the sign, and it's going to be a little bit of on a tilted kind of angle. And then I am going to make a greenery or a flower, I guess, like a little swag for the top. I'm going to use these greeneries. This is from the Target dollar spot. And then I'm going to use some baby's breath that I got on Amazon, and just to kind of add a little bit of a white tone to it. And then I'm going to join everything together using some jute twine and hot glue it to the top.
We will keep it steady. We will be the confetti. If we fail, we just reboot.
Using this ribbon from the Dollar Tree, I'm going to make a very simple bow, tie it in the center with some jute twine, and hot glue it to the center of the floral. And then I am going to take more of that same ribbon, and I'm just going to cut a piece. It's maybe about 12 inches, maybe 14 or so. And I'm just going to loop it on the back, hot glue it, and that's going to be where we can hang it from. And guys, it is really hard to pick a favorite, but I think this one might be one of my favorites. I love the colors. I love how fresh and crisp it looks, and it's just so cute. I love it.
Grass is greener on this side. Are you ready for new?
New beginnings, new pride, let your spirit shine through. Many more.
Alright guys, so for this next DIY, I am going to take this metal box I found at the thrift store. I'm just taking measurements because I want to build a base for it. So I'm here in my garage and it is a mess and it's freezing. But I have this, I wish I had a 1x4, but I don't. I have this 12-foot 1x3 and I think it would be good though. I was hoping I'd have. I'm going to take it here to my miter saw and I'm going to start measuring. So I am going to do the box, let's say long ways this way. I'm going to first cut the ones that are going, the shorter ones, because then I am going to create pocket holes and then place the ones. So I'm going to first cut those, remeasure to see how long I need to cut the other one. Alright, so I'm just going to mark here where I need to place the cuts, and I am going to use my miter saw to cut them.
I watch you as you drive. Do you know I'm looking? And I can't help but smile. Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on. I put my feet up.
So now it's time to make sure that things fit well, and then I'm going to measure and cut the two other sections.
And we just sing along. And I can't help but feeling, just loving this moment.
Now using my Craig jig, I am going to place 2 pocket holes on each end of the longer boards, and they're going to be on the same side of the board.
Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever?
A Craig jig or pocket holes are good when you are joining 2 boards together because it creates a very strong joint between those boards. That way you'll know that they're going to last and they're not going to wobble. It's just such a great tool to have, and I love using mine. Alright, so now I'm going to use the pocket hole screws, the appropriate size ones, as well as the drill bit. And I'm just going to join them together, creating a frame for the box.
Forever, forever, forever. I watch you as you sleep. You don't know I'm looking. With you everything's complete. Do you know how much I love you? I put your favorite song on just to wake you up. When I dance around, I can't help but feeling, just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever?
Now that I have everything nicely set, I am going to sand it down just lightly to remove any splinters and just make sure that it's smooth as possible. I'm now going to place it on the bottom of the box, making sure that everything fits, and I'm excited because it does fit. And now I am just going to drill a couple extra holes. The box already had 4 holes, but I am needing a few more just to make sure that frame is nicely tightened. So I'm going to pre-drill the holes, and then I am going to take some screws and just screw in the base from the inside of the box.
Forever, forever, forever. I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here forever?
I am now going to give it a good clean, make sure that it's dust free and grime free. Take it outside and give it again several coats of this flat white Rust-Oleum spray paint. And again, guys, I seriously went outside like maybe 15 times. I was spraying it so lightly. It is cold, so it was going to take a while to dry. So I wanted to make sure each coat was very, very light. So I ended up going outside quite a bit of times, but in the end, it was so worth it.
I'm loving this moment. Just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together?
All right, guys, so here we are. Now that it is dry, I am now going to measure again because I want to give this or turn this box into a table, a side table. So I want the table to be 20 inches tall. So I cut these 2x4s into 17 inches long. That way the entire table is 20 inches tall. Now I'm going to place a couple pocket holes once again only on one side of the legs. That way I can screw them in onto the bottom of the table.
Stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? Forever. Forever.
Because these boards are thicker, you're going to see me here. I am putting a lot more body weight. And the table is a little high, my workbench. So I'm really trying to get on my tippy toes there, making sure that I have enough strength to get those screws in there.
I can't help but feeling. Just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together?
And now I am going to give the entire bottom base as well as the legs 2 coats of this regular household latex paint.
Stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? Forever. Forever. Forever.
These little felt pads, I am going to place 2 in each leg. That way they are going to keep my floors nicely, not scratched up.
I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here?
Using my Cricut, I designed this, or I didn't design it, but I purchased this design from Cricut Design Space. I'm just going to place it right on top, and then I am going to use an X-Acto knife to cut right in the place where the top of the box would open up. That way it won't crinkle up on me.
I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment.
And to finish it off, of course, I'm going to seal it. I want to make sure everything is secure in there and it's not going to get stained or damaged with any water or, juice, milk. One last thing I wanted to do, I wanted to line the inside of the box using some contact paper. This is just one you get like at the Dollar Tree, I think it was that I got. And then once I did that, it was all done. I love this table. It is right next to the side of the couch that I sit on, and we can now store our remote controls, cell phones, tablets, whatever we want. And I love, love, love the way this box turned out into a side table.
Just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? Forever. Forever. Forever.
For this next DIY, I'm going to take this little cabinet that I purchased at Habitat for Humanity not long ago, and I thought it was so beautiful. It's solid wood, and it just has a very farmhouse look to it. It just screamed farmhouse to me. So the back part of it was actually, it had actually come apart. It fell off. So we're going to have to put that back on. And I'll do that using my brad nailer and then giving it a good scrub so we can start painting. The door was actually opening and closing very easily, so I decided to add one of these little door magnets. It's just for little cabinets or doors where you can put one on one side and then the other one on the door, and that way it'll hold it together and not open and close all the time like it was. As I mentioned earlier, I just want to give it a good scrub, but it was actually in really good shape. It was not dirty at all, but I still like to clean it and make sure that any grime that is on it will be removed. I'm going to use Debbie's Design Diary chalk paint. This is a clay and chalk based paint. It's in the color Apothecary. It is beautiful. It's been over a year since I've used it, and I just fell in love all over again with it. I have like a 1/4 or 1/3 of the can left, but it was actually enough for this cabinet, and I still have left over. So I'm going to give it 2 coats over the entire cabinet. Once the 2 coats were dry, I am now going to distress it pretty heavily using my electric sander once again and the 150 grit sandpaper. I'm going to focus mainly on the edges, but I will do a little bit here and there in the center parts because I want it to have a really, really heavy distress. And we are almost done, but it's time to seal everything. And once again, I am going to use the Varathane, polyurethane, and the crystal clear. And I'm going to wipe it using a sponge applicator, which I love using. So easy to use. And guys, I do have a lot of these supplies, paints in my Amazon store. I am going to link the clay and chalk paint here from Debbie's Design Diary and the Dixie Belle website as well on the description box. So check it out. But once again, a lot of the supplies that I have here, I do have in my Amazon store. So check it out. It is linked down in the description box. And then once I wiped on I did two coats of the top coat and then 3 on the top. I did put back the little handle that was on it originally. It was black. I thought it was simple enough to keep it on. So I did that, and I think this little cabinet turned out so beautiful. I might even keep this one instead of selling it. I just don't know if I have a place for it, but I do want to remind you what it looked like before we gave it a new look. And this is what it looks like now. Stunning little cabinet, beautiful color, and I just think it would look great in any home decor.
You said that you needed me.
for this next DIY, I'm going to take this thrifted piece of game. It's solid wood. I found this at the restore, and yeah, I love the shape. We're not big, checkers players, so but I think it was really cute. It's handcrafted because whoever did it wrote it on the back and the year, and it was handcrafted in 1989. So I'm not going to paint the back because I want to be able to show that. I gave it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. And then I'm going to do something different here. Today I'm doing all kinds of different things. I'm going to take some more of that Serenity Blue and this little pointy brush. And I'm just going to start circling around. I want this to have like a little, it kind of like where it's blue in the center and it's kind of like melting or kind of shadowing towards the edges. So you tell me again in the comments what you think of this one. Using my Cricut, I cut out the phrase, "Life is better together," and I'm going to stencil it just like I did the previous one, white on top and the country gray on the bottom.
Heading back to what used to be home, passing by those little towns I know so well, stopping for gas and then I'm behind the wheel again. Driving this like a spiritual cleanse, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on.
To add a little bit more character, I am going to wrap the handles using some jute twine from Walmart. And I think it made it look like a little tray. I think it actually can be used as a little tray, but I intended it to be like a little sign, but it can certainly be used as a tray. So I think this really finished it off. I think it kind of disguised a little bit the hearts, which I was not a huge fan of, but I think overall, I think it was a great flip, and I love the way this one turned out. Alright guys, so for this DIY, we are going to start with 3 pieces of scrap wood. These were actually part of a door trim. I've had them for a while, and these 3 are not the same size, but it'll work for what I wanted. I'm going to remove that top portion of that trim just using my hammer, and that way I'll have just the plain larger boards. Once I have that out, I am going to give them a light sand just to remove, any splinters or anything that may be on them, just for a smoother surface. And then I'm going to start painting them. Now, one of them I'm going to paint in this color by Dixie Belle. It's called Daisies. It's beautiful. It's chalk paint. I am going to have Dixie Belle's website link down in the description box. The other one I am going to paint white in the Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. And I'm going to give them both 2 coats. Now, the center one is going to be a mix of both. And we're going to do like a little blending of them in the middle. So I'm going to start with the white, then I'm going to add yellow, and then I'm going to blend in the middle until everything is covered. And I'll do the same thing twice so that we have full coverage. Once everything was dry, I am going to take my square here. Basically, I'm just placing a little dot where I want to screw in a little holes, because we are going to be screwing in some hooks. And this is because I want them to hang from each other. So I'm just going to mark the holes, and then I'm going to use my drill to drill holes. Now the bottom one, which is the yellow one, is going to have just 2 on the top. The middle one's going to have 2 on each side, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And then the top board is going to have just 2 on the bottom. And then I'm going to screw in, as I mentioned, a couple of hooks, and that way they can hang from each other. All right, so now that I have the hooks in, I'm going to show you here that the middle one is going to be facing forward, and then the bottom one's going to be facing sideways so that they can hook together nicely. And then the top one is the same thing. The hooks are facing sideways so that way it can hang nicely from that one. Then using my Cricut, I cut out the phrase heart full of sunshine. I'm going to place the heart in the white board, the full of in the combined one, and then the sunshine in the yellow one. And then I did add a couple of claw hooks on the back of the top one. That way it can hang on the wall. And that's it for this one, guys. What a beautiful, beautiful, like ladder style, I guess, sign. Is very summery, very bright. And I love that middle board. So stunning. Alright guys, so for this DIY, I am going to start here with my miter saw and a 1x2. I am going to start cutting these pieces. They are 1 foot, and then I'm going to need 4 of those, and then I'm going to need 4 8-inch pieces. So I'm just going to cut them to size, and we're going to create a lantern. This lantern is a little bit different from what I have created in the past. So they are my pieces. I'm going to just start making 1 square, so 1 frame. I'm going to use a wood glue as well as brad nails. For this DIY, I am going to keep things kind of at a normal pace here. I know sometimes I speed it up, but I know we have a lot of new subscribers and a lot of you are new crafters and probably not as comfortable working with wood and tools. So I'm just going to slow it down so you can see how easily it could be. So once I had the pieces, again, I'm just going to use some wood glue and be very careful, of course, when using tools. And I'm just going to brad nail it together. You can also use regular hammer and nails, but just a brad nailer is a lot quicker. And so as you can see, we're just going to create a frame, and then we're going to create the second frame, but that one's going to be a little different, and I'll show you how I'll be doing that one.
Look out, here she comes. The woman that I love. It's too bad she'll never know. Yeah, I can't tell her how I feel, because she has someone who makes her happy. I'm a ghost in these walls.
Alright, so frame number 1 is done. So now we're going to create the other frame, but we're going to build it inside of the other frame. So you can see here, we're going to start with the smaller one. We're just going to attach it to the bottom, crisscross, just making like a little cross there. And then we're going to build it just the same as the other one, except we're going to build it while it's attached to the first frame. And again, we're going to use wood glue and brad nails to do so.
Or at least I try to be. 'Cause I hope that I'm not showing how I feel for her, but she won't feel the same for me.
I took 2 pieces of scrap 2x4s that we're going to use here in another DIY, but I used them to prop my one side so that I have something so that the frame is not tilted one way and I can brad nail it safely.
Got this picture in my mind. It's just the two of us, just the two of us. But I know I'll have to try to let her go, because she won't be mine. I listen when she talks, I watch her when she walks. She's giving me these feelings that I've never felt before.
All right, so we're getting ready to attach here the last piece. So are you seeing kind of like what's going on here? So the both frames are exactly the same size, just one is inside the other and kind of propped on top of each other. So we're going to create a lantern that's pretty cool looking. I actually got inspired by one that I saw on Pinterest, and I thought, hey, I can make that. Now I will be making it just a bit different, but overall the idea came from Pinterest. So I am going to attach this last piece here. Now it is going to be a little wobbly towards the further on, I guess, I am going to add a couple pieces that's going to make it not wobbly. But so for the inside of the lantern, I am going to put a mason jar. So I want to use two of these little tiny pieces that I cut to size to fit that inside piece. So that way the mason jar is not going to tilt over. And then we're going to start painting. Now I should have thought about placing the other two pieces underneath the lantern so it wouldn't be teeter-tottering. But I didn't do it until after my first coat, but no big deal. I did one coat and then I decided to add those two pieces on the bottom. Again, just same pieces of wood, just cut them to size. And now that way the lantern is not going to teeter back and forth. And I gave everything 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. Once the paint was dry, I'm just gonna drill a hole here on top, and then we're gonna place a knob. This is just an old knob from an old dresser and a screw there, and we're just gonna screw it on top, and that way it just has a little something to hold or to grab from, I guess, or just to finish it off. So the mason jar I'm using is one of these blue glass mason jars. I'm going to use one of these faux candles that are battery operated. Then I'm going to use some greenery grass that I get on Amazon. Just place it towards one side, and that's it for this one. Such a beautiful, beautiful lantern. I love the color. It's perfect for summer, and I just think it's stunning.
Like she stole my heart without knowing she did, but I guess that it will pass.
All right, my friends, so I am starting here with a 1x10 that I got at the hardware store. Because my miter saw does not cut an entire width of a 1x10, I did have to flip it over and make a couple cuts, but it's no big deal. I'm also using this 2x2 that I had on hand, and I'm going to cut some legs for it. I'm going to have 3 stands, and this is going to be a decor riser that's going to be nesting style. So I'm going to have 3 boards and 3 sets of legs. The larger legs that you see there on the right side, that's just going to be on the sides of the larger board, or I guess the larger riser, and then the other legs are going to be for the other 2. I'm going to lightly sand the edges to make sure there's no splinters anywhere on any boards. So this is what my sets look like. Now I am going to separate what I want to stain and what I want to paint. Because I want these risers to be nesting style, I also want them to be decorative even when they are in the nesting position. So I'm going to have some boards be stained with this Vermilion golden oak tone, and then some other pieces are going to be white. The ones that have the board stained, then the legs are going to be white, and then the ones that have the board white, then the legs are going to be stained. And it's all going to make sense once we put everything together. The paint that I am using is Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white, and I'm going to give these 2 boards as well as the darker tone legs 2 coats. And now it's time to place everything together. I'm going to use wood glue as well as my brad nailer. Now, when I started putting everything together and I began here with my larger one, I realized that the medium-sized board as well as the smaller one were not the right size. I did not measure right, so I did have to go back to my miter saw, make some extra cuts, and then paint those edges and stain those edges as needed. It was no big deal. It was quite easy, but I did wanted to mention that because the boards end up being a lot smaller than what I anticipated, except for the larger one. So as you can see, I'm just placing all the legs in the appropriate board and wood gluing them as well as brad nailing them. And now I am going to take some of these felt pads that I get at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to place 1 on each leg. That way it's not going to scratch any surface or any countertops when they're being slid in and outside of each other. So here's just a quick look on how they slide perfectly right inside each other. And now I'm going to show you a series of slides because I just thought these were the cutest risers ever. They are so versatile. Look at the tone, like the different tones of the white and the stain, and how they just slide inside each other, and they can be stacked on top of each other. They can be placed like on the side of each other. They can be placed in so many positions. I really love the way this turned out. I'm also going to show you what they look like when they have decor on them, and I think they look stunning.
I saw you from across the room. When our eyes met, I never knew that I could feel this way.
Alright my friends, so we are starting with this piece of wooden board that I got at the hardware store as part of their scrap wood area. I cut out a piece that was about 32 inches long. I then freehanded a huge, large flip-flop, and then I traced it with black marker so it would be a little bit darker so that I can trace it onto a piece of paper. This is so that I can then have an exact replica on the other side. So once I have it darkened here, I am going to place it on the other side with some carbon paper underneath and just trace it, and that way I'll have an exact or very close to exact replica on the other side. And you can see once I remove the carbon paper, I have it right next to it. So I'm just going to trace it again with black marker. That way it's going to be nicely sharp and visible. I'm going to drill a hole right in the center there because I am going to use my jigsaw here. This was my Mother's Day gift, by the way. And I'm just going to start cutting and trimming all around the flip-flops. As you can see these are very large, and they're going to be towel holders for outdoor, so by our pool. So I'm just going to continue to cut with my jigsaw all around until I have the flip-flops cut off. Then I'm going to take my electric sander and I am going to sand off any splinter and make it as smooth as I can. Once I have it smoothed out, I'm just going to give it 2 coats of regular household exterior white paint. And once the paint was dry, I am going to take my yardstick and I'm just going to start drawing some lines. Now, I'm not using a pencil or marker. I'm just going to use a screwdriver, a flat screwdriver, because I want it to be indented more than written, like written or drawn. Then I'm going to take some blue chalk paint. This is charcoal by Rust-Oleum. And I'm going to start painting some blue lines. And I'm going to alternate them on the other side. So whatever blue line I have on one side, it's going to be the white one on the other side. That way they are a little bit different. And then once I have the lines drawn or painted, I am just going to let them dry. In the meantime, I'm going to take some nautical rope from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to just twist it to make it thicker. I'm going to fold that in half and then I am going to tie it just so that I can cut it in the middle, and then I have 2 equal sizes of that rope. Then I'm going to take my little sanding block here from the Dollar Tree and I'm just going to start sanding the blue area just so it's a little bit of distress, and you can see it there's a little bit of distress there on it. Then I'm going to take my palm sander and start distressing the edges. That way it has a little bit more of a distress on the edges. I'm going to take a drill bit in my drill and drill a couple holes and add an I think it's called like an eye hook. They're the ones that are open though. And then I am going to place one of those ropes right there. And this is going to be that part of the flip-flop that goes on the top. Then I'm going to drill a couple holes on the bottom, add a couple more of those open eye hooks, and then I am going to using E6000 and hot glue, I'm going to wrap it around in place, and I'm also going to use some jute twine to tie it and make sure it's really, really secure there. And I did the same exact process on the other side so that they both match each other. I am then going to drill a couple holes, one on the bottom of each flip-flop. This is going to be so that I can add some more of those hooks, but these are larger, and that's where we can hang a towel. I am now going to take some Waverly Antiquing Wax, and I'm going to start antiquing the whole thing, just adding a little bit more character, a little bit more shadowing almost, and I'm just going to do that on all the edges, on the trim, where the white and the blue meet, everywhere. As I'm adding, I'm also wiping any excess, and it comes off pretty easily. I also added it around the ropes area, around the hooks. I want these flip-flops to look like they've been outdoors and it's been I guess weathering naturally. As you can see, I also did the edges and I wiped off the edges with the rag. And then all I have to do is add a saw hook on the back. And that's it, guys. This one turned out so beautiful. These flip-flops are massive and they are so durable. They're made out of wood. I am going to spray them with a protective coat. That way they can be outdoors and be safe. But I love the way they turned out and I cannot wait to see them outside by my pool. And I sure hope you love them too. I'm going to take this really old box that I recently got at a yard sale for $3. Yes, you heard me right. $3. And yes, it's old. And yes, it was stinky. And yes, it was dirty. However, it was such good quality. It has so much character, so much natural patina. You could tell this thing has been around for a long time. I cleaned it up as best as I could. I flipped it over, and now I'm going to add these wheel casters that I have had forever and ever. Truly, I got them on Amazon so long ago. I'm going to try to see if I have them in my Amazon store. But if I don't, I'll try to add them. But you can get these really inexpensive. So I'm just going to add 4 of them, 1 in each corner, just screwing them in. I got really lucky that the box actually had really thick trim at the bottom. So that's it on that box. I'm not going to do anything to the box because I wanted to keep it in its original state. I want it to be very rugged. So now I'm going to take one more of those boards that you heard me talk about earlier from the scrap wood area at the hardware store. This one I did have to cut to size. However, it was already the same width, and believe it or not, it was exactly the same width as the box. I gave it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the country gray tone. Once that was dry, I placed it on top of the box, and now I'm just going to screw in some of these hinges that I already had on hand from other furniture that I flipped and I kept. And basically it's just screwing them in from the back, making sure that it opens on the right direction. I'm going to take this wooden knob that again I kept from a piece of furniture that I flipped a while ago. It was already the tone that it is, and I'm just going to place it right in the front. That way it can be used to open and close the top of the box. Once I have it on there with a screw, I am going to seal in the top of the box because this is going to be not just a storage box, but it could also serve as a little side table or as a coffee table. And if you place something that is wet or has eyes or something spills, then you are able to wipe it off if it's sealed. Does that make sense? So then I decided to add a little something to the front of the box because even though the box itself is really rustic and has a lot of character, I just felt like I needed something. So I used my Cricut and I cut out a very rustic kind of, oh my gosh, American flag. There we go. And I just stenciled it with Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the charcoal tone. And look how cool this box is. It's very manly, almost very rugged, rustic, and I just love the way it turned out. I love this box. I just can't tell you how much I love the box. It's just the natural state that it was in. Yes, it was dirty and stinky and we had to clean it up, but overall, I just love it. Very cool. Alright, so for this DIY, we are going to start with this wooden box. I recently went to a yard sale and I found 3 boxes. One I already redid into a kind of like a coffee table trunk. And this one we are going to turn into a cute little side table. So the first things first is I want to secure it. Make sure that it is sturdy, that all the joints are as sturdy as possible. So I hammered down the already nails that were on there. I'm also going to brat nail a lot through the sides, just making sure that it's nicely secure. And I did use 1/2 inch brat nails on the thinner areas like you see here, and then on the bottom, because it was thicker like you see here, I am using
1-inch brad nails. So just wanted to let you know. Once I had it nicely secure, it's time to just make sure that all dust, cobwebs, and dirt is all gone, or at least as much as possible. This is such a rustic box that it truly is hard to get everything out, but it did actually look pretty clean. So now I'm just measuring the inside of the width of the box, because like I said, we're going to turn it into a little side table, and I am going to place a little shelf inside of it. So this is a 1x10 that I already had on hand. I used in other projects. I always keep like 1x3s, 1x4s, 1x10s, sometimes 1x6 and 1x8s, not all of them at once, but I just like having them on hand because they're really easy to work with and they're really nice to have for DIYs. So once I had it marked and I cut everything where I needed to cut, I'm going to paint everything white, or at least the shelf and these 4 legs that I got at the hardware store. Let me tell you, it was like 2 years ago. I had a plan to use this for a dresser that I flipped a long time ago. I never used them and I completely forgot. So we're going to use it for this one. I painted them white. They're drying. So now I am going to take this drill bit and I'm just going to mark here. I actually marked where the bottom of the screw is on the legs. And I make sure that I grabbed a drill bit that is thick as or a little thinner, I believe it was, or almost about the same thickness as the screw. And then I marked with a tape how thick or not how thick, but how deep the screw is. And that way I'm not going to drill too much far in. So I did mark in each corner using my square there to make sure that I am drilling evenly in all 4 corners. And here I am going to be drilling, making sure that I don't go past that tape mark that I did there. And then once I had that done, then it was time to start attaching the legs. I used wood glue and then just basically screwed them in until they're nicely tight.
Treasure hunt. I long for something new. Have you heard the fairies when they sing and dance? Oh, I wish it was me every night. When I close my eyes, I see
And then I did finish them off by adding these felt pads that I usually use for my furniture. That way it's not going to scratch any floors. So now that the shelf is dry as well, I'm just going to add some wood glue. And then I'm just going to start hammering it into the center where I marked earlier. And I love it. I mean, what can I say? I truly did. The cut was perfect. Anytime you have to hammer just a little bit to get it in there, you know it was a good cut because it was not swiveling on me. It was truly in there. So now I'm just using my level here, making sure that the shelf is level, not only sideways, but also vertically. And that way, anything they put on it, it's going to be nicely safe. And I'm just going to brad nail from the sides. I did add quite a bit on each side just to ensure that everything is nicely secure. And then to finish it off, I am going to seal the top of the box. This is going to be like the top of the table. I contemplated putting something on top, but I didn't want to miss out on all this beautiful texture and all this beautiful like rustic look. So I just left it as is, and I did seal it three coats with the polyurethane. And look how beautiful this little side table is. Love it. I love it. I think it would look great in any space, especially any smaller space, because it is on the smaller side. But how beautiful does it look? We are going to start here with these 2 pieces of boards that I got at the hardware store. These were in the scrap wood area. I recently went there and found some amazing pieces of wood. And when I go to Lowe's, they are 25 cents. This one was actually a long one that I cut in half. And believe it or not, it was already this like grayish color on one side. So not sure what that was. But nonetheless, I found 2 of these like this. I used one for this one and I cut it in half. I did sandal a little bit so it's nicely smooth. And I gave it 1 coat of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the charcoal tone. I then used my Cricut and cut out a decal, or actually a stencil. This is a stencil with an and, a very large and what I did was I placed both boards right next to each other, right touching each other, and I am going to place the and right in the center. That way it's going to be split between both boards, and I'm going to stencil it using Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white, as well as the words humble and kind on each board. We are just about done with this one, and honestly, it's one of my favorites today. I love the simplicity. I love how it has a very modern farmhouse style to it. And yeah, I was inspired by something I saw at Hobby Lobby, where it had this and sign right in the center, split between two signs, and it had different message on it. But I was inspired by them, and I thought I can make that and make it very simple. I did add 2 sawtooth hooks on the back of each. That way it can be hung. And I love the way this turned out. Love it, love it, love it. And we are going to start here with this beautiful side table. It is very sturdy. I love how sturdy it is, and I'm going to give it a brand new look. So I'm going to put them on these little rolling cards that I have. It just makes life easier when you are painting furniture. And I'm just going to place them here. And then the goal with this table is to paint it. And for the first time ever, guys, I am using regular latex paint. What? Yes, I am going to use regular household paint. You know that I love chalk paint. Chalk paint is my go-to paint for anything DIY, anything home decor. However, I want to give this a try. I know a lot of you have asked before, why chalk paint, why not regular household paint? So we're going to give it a try. I went to the hardware store and I got a Behr brand paint in a beautiful green tone. But first we got to prep it. So I did sand down the top just a little bit because it had some kind of like water stains and it was a little bit lifted. And then I removed the knobs that it had, and then I am going to give it 1 coat of Kills primer, and this is the stain blocking primer. This is just to make sure that latex paint is really going to stick to the side table. This side table had a weird light switch in the back of it. Not sure where it was connected, but we are going to remove that because it makes no sense to be in there. Alright friends, so here we are. This is the inside of the little cabinet, and there's a little bit of damage here. I'm not really concerned because I am going to resurface this little area, or maybe even paint it, just the bottom. But then we have that. That's where that weird light like switch was at. I have no clue because it wasn't connected to anything inside. I thought maybe for a reason it would have had like maybe some lighting in here, but there wasn't, so I'm not sure about that. But nonetheless, I am going to have to figure it. So we are going to start painting here. I am going to give this first coat just kind of giving it a smooth coat. However, first impression of the paint is I did not like it. I didn't like the brightness of the color. I did not like how runny the paint is. It's because I'm used to having a chalk paint, and chalk paint, it's thicker, it's creamier, and it has better coverage. So I guess I'm just used to chalk paint. So nonetheless, I am committed. At this point, I'm just thinking, okay, let's just keep going. Let's just see where this goes. But the first coat is always the roughest, even with chalk paints, don't get me wrong, but it's just a little bit more rough with this latex paint. And as you can see here, it is just so just striped and a lot of brush strokes, and but nonetheless, we are going to keep painting until it is fully covered. All right, friends, so here we are. This is after 3 coats of the Bear paint, and I need to do another one. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but yeah, you can see it right here. You can really see that it needs another one. So not loving the latex paint on it. However, the color is stunning. I really love the color. So let's keep going. Alright guys, so I am out here in the garage and I am going to be spray painting these hardware. Now these knobs were actually the original ones that came with the side table, but these I actually recently got on Amazon. They're on the smaller side. For this DIY, for this side table is perfect. So, but I actually got them for when I create home decor because it's small enough, but it's actually going to work out. So I'm just going to place it here on this box. I removed the screw. Now I can stand them up and spray paint them there. So I'm going to use Rust-Oleum Metallic Golden Tone and see how they look. So on to covering the bottom portion of the inside of the cabinet here. So this contact paper I get at Dollar Tree. You've probably seen them. I actually have used it several times and it's done very well for me. So I'm just going to start placing it. It's kind of uncomfortable to do this. If you've ever lined drawers or anything like this, shelves, it's pretty uncomfortable. So let alone having to film it as well. So I'm trying to give you a little bit of room there so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm basically just going to start at the back and work my way to the front. I am using the Cricut little scraper here just to help me with bubbles. Now this cabinet, the bottom of it had a little lip right there. You see where I'm marking? That's where I'm going to cut, because if I line the front of that lip, when the doors close and open, it's probably going to pull back and forth the contact paper, and I don't want that. I want it to look seamless. I want it to look professional and complete. So I'm just going to do that, and then with my X-Acto knife, just make a cut and then pull it, and that way it'll be a nice clean cut. Oh guys, I am not sure what I want to do with this end part here. So I contemplated covering the whole thing from the back, like removing the whole thing. However, this is such a hard quality piece of wood back here, even though it's thin, that I would hate to remove the whole thing. So then I thought, okay, well maybe I'll put some contact paper like this, and then I was like, no, because then you're gonna feel it, you know, it's gonna be like wobbly there, so that's not gonna be nice and good quality. So what I decided to do then is I am going to cover it from the front, because the back you won't see, it's gonna be towards, you know, towards the wall, but if you open the doors, then you'll be able to see it no matter if it's covered on the back. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to cut a piece of wood this size in here, and I'm going to place it right on top, right, you know, on there, and I'm going to paint it the green color, and that way it'll complement it. So let's see. I am using this piece of paneling that I got at the hardware store. This is one of my scrap wood pieces from the hardware store. If you follow me on Instagram, I recently went and got more of these scrap wood. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, I ask that you consider doing so. I do have it linked down below. So I'm going to use my table saw there to cut it to size after I measured it. And I'm just going to sand it here lightly to remove any splinters, actually to remove all the splinters. It was filled with splinters. And then I'm going to give it 2 coats of the Bare green paint. I'm going to have the paint linked down below if it interests you, or the color at least, the name of the color.
All right, guys, so here we go. Moment of truth. God, I'm so nervous. All right, so it looks like it's fitting. And oh my gosh, is it gonna fit? Well, I think it's a little snug, but that's not a bad thing because I can always use my mallet to kind of push it in there, and I think it's gonna work. We'll see. Guys, I am seriously in shock. It fits perfect. This never happens like this. Like, this is truly one of those moments where I am so thankful because it fits snug enough where I don't even need to nail it at all with my brad nailer. I just hammered it, or mallet it, I guess, and then I still have to mallet it just a little bit. But overall, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. And look how much better that looks, you know, without that hole, and it matches the paint. Yes!
And to finish things off, I'm just going to add the knobs and the handles, and then we'll be done.
These are silver now, so I have to paint them, and I really don't want to take them out, like take them out and take them outside and spray paint them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the spray paint that I use. I'm going to spray just a whole bunch, like right here on this piece of paper, and then using a brush, I am going to dab and paint and see how that comes out.
Alright guys, so I did have to add 2 coats of this brushed on spray paint, but it worked out perfectly. You can't even tell that I didn't spray paint them. So here's what the little cabinet or side table looked like before I gave it a new look. And this is what it looks like now. Ah, so beautiful. I love this green tone. Although I had to do 4 coats and I was not happy about that, the end result is stunning. Don't tell me this doesn't look like high-end. Oh, goodness, does it look high-end. Love, love, love it. And ladies and gentlemen, it was only $13. How cool is that? DIY here, guys. It is going to be with this frame. It is actually on the longer side, but it's thin. And I found it for $4. It was $3.99. Not bad. So I decided to switch it up completely. I'm going to remove the back, and then I started removing these staples that was holding the glass and the picture, and I quickly realized I need to stop doing that because this is exactly what I'm going to need to hold the tin that I'm going to put here in just a few minutes. So I decided to just fold the staples to the side and then carefully remove the glass and the picture. Once I had it removed, I'm going to give it a quick scrub just to remove any stains or any dust that it may have had. And then I am going to give it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. And as I mentioned before, I want all of these thrift store makeovers to have an easily transition from season to season. And I think this one will nail it. I was recently at Walmart and I found this beautiful piece of tin which was in the crafting supplies area, and I thought it would be perfect for this project. So I'm just going to cut it in half, but first I'm going to mark 3 spots right down the middle, and then I'm going to connect those dots so that way I know exactly where to cut. And I'm going to cut it using shears that I got on Amazon. These shears are awesome, guys. If you're looking for some good shears, these are really good. I do have them on my Amazon store, so if you want to check that out, I do have it down below.
Alright, so here is the issue that I'm having. For some reason in my mind, I thought it would be like, it would line up really well. And it did, because these are going to eventually overlap just a tiny bit. So on this side, it's very, almost even. But on this side it's not, so I might have not measured right. So now I'm gonna have to make another cut on this side so that it's even, and then cut down this side.
So now I am going to take some antiquing wax by Waverly, and I'm just going to start dabbing it. This is a brush. It's like a hard bristle brush. I think it's meant to be for stenciling. I'm not a fan of it for stenciling, but I have used it to create rusting kind of look. So something to look like it was rusting for a while. So I thought it was perfect for this tin. So I'm just going to go all around the edges, but really it's no right or wrong way. You can just do whatever you want if you're going to recreate something similar to this. Then I'm going to take this, it's kind of like a terracotta color spray paint by Rust-Oleum, and I'm going to do the same thing. Just dab the brush and then just start dabbing all around where I already placed the wax. That way it's just getting a little bit of contrast, because when some things rust, they have different tones. They have like browns and oranges, and I just wanted to mimic and make it look as realistic as possible. So after I was done with the rusting portion of it, I'm going to take the frame and I'm going to seal it using Varathane polyurethane in the crystal clear. And I'm just going to do one pretty good coat and let it fully dry. And now I'm going to take the same antiquing wax by Waverly, and I'm just going to start applying it. I first started with a piece of sock, like an old sock, and then I quickly switched to the brush because it was just easier. So the goal here is to antique it a little bit, distress it a little bit, but instead of sanding it, I'm just going to use the antiquing wax. I'm going to apply it and then start wiping off. And I'm going to wipe off actually quite a bit of it. I even changed into a wet wipe. That way I can remove as much as possible, because I just want the antiquing wax to be a detail within the frame. And then I made sure I went through it with a dry rag and just to remove any residue. So then I flipped it over, and I'm just going to place the tin here very carefully, trying to keep it underneath those staples that I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to place both of them one on top of each other. And then I'm going to place some tape. This tape I got at the Dollar Tree, and it's just basically like a mailing shipping tape, but it actually has really good stickiness to it. So I'm just going to place a couple of pieces here on the back. That way it'll be nicely secure. Then I'm going to start pressing down those staples as best as I can to keep it in place. But I also decided to add tape all around. That way it'll keep very secure, as well as hide all the staples and some of that yuckiness that was on there. So now it's time to dry fit the flowers that I'm going to use for the front. And I'm just going to mark in the front and then the back 2 spots where I'm going to drill holes. And that way we can thread the wire as well as the jute twine in here in a little bit. To drill the holes, I made sure that I had the piece of wood underneath as well, because you don't want to mess up your surface. So make sure you always have a piece of scrap wood that you can drill on. So there we have it, 2 holes. Now I'm just going to use the florals here and just going to place them, cut the excess stem, and then start tying them with this wire. This wire is from the Dollar Tree, but you can use any wire you have on hand. I'm going to loop it around twice and then twist it in the back and cut the excess. Now I'm going to make a simple bow here. It's going to be a multiple loop bow using some burlap ribbon, and I'm going to tie it in the middle using some jute twine. Basically, you just loop it around several times, tie it in the back, and then I did do some dovetail cuts on the ends. That way it looks nicely finished. And then I'm going to thread the jute twine through the little holes and tie it in the back so it's nicely secure. And then once that was done, I thought it would just needed a little bit more oomph to it. So right above the bow, I decided to add some, I have no clue what they are. I think they look like berries, these things. I got them at the Dollar Tree. They come in little bunches. So I just cut a couple of the branches, and I'm just going to thread them right through in between the bow and the rest of the stems. And I think it turned out stunning. I know it has a little bit more of a fall look, but if you remove the flowers and just put summer flowers or even Christmas, maybe some evergreen, oh, that would look beautiful. All right, we are going to start with this piece of 1x6 that I got at the hardware store. I've done several projects with it, and I'm also going to take this piece of leftover, it's like a spindle from a table that I DIY'd a while ago, and I'm going to cut two other pieces to, or like this one, but that's going to be the same width as the spindle because we're going to create a little decorative toolbox for the kitchen, almost like a centerpiece for the dining room table. Once I had the three pieces cut to the same size, I am going to lightly sand, removing any splinters and just making sure that it's nicely smooth. These little decorative, kind of like cutting boards, they're from the Dollar General. They were $3 each. I thought they were very farmhouse looking, but I am going to, they're going to be the sides of the decorative toolbox. So you saw there that the spindle has a very large dowel at the end, and not large, but larger than the hole that the cutting board here has. So I'm going to use a spade blade here just to kind of cut it and make sure that that little dowel that's at the end of each side of the spindle is going to fit right through because that's where it's going to go. So I used, again, the spade blade. I'm not quite sure what size it was. I just kind of measured it to the spindle, making sure that it was going to fit. So once I had it cut and sanded down, now is the moment of truth, making sure it fits, and it does perfectly. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. The two decorative cutting boards had like a little, I think it was like a chicken and a little piggy, and I am going to reuse them, but I'm not going to use them on the sides of the decorative toolbox. So I'm just going to remove them very carefully, making sure that I'm not ruining the chicken wire as well as the chicken and the piggy. So I'm going to put those to the side, and now it's time to give everything 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. Now I'm going to start painting the inside of the box. So I'm only going to do one side of everything. That's because I don't know if you've ever painted inside a box, but it's not my favorite thing to do when it's assembled. So I figured I'm just going to give everything 2 coats when everything's not assembled, and it's going to make my life so much easier. So I did that with everything. Once the paint was dry, of course, then it was time to put everything together. But that way, and then we can paint the outside when everything's put together. But I've learned my lesson, and I just like doing it better when it's disassembled. Now, if it's already a box that was maybe thrifted and it's already assembled, it is what it is. But if I can do it this way, it's much better. So now it's time to staple everything. I could have used brad nails, and I did afterwards. I did add a couple extra brad nails here and there, but using the staples I think just felt better because these little cutting boards are not real wood, and so I just wanted to I think the brad nail maybe would have been too thin and gone right through it if it was like pulled on it. So once I had the 2 sides put on it, it was time to place the longer sides, and it was pretty snug fit, but it was actually perfect. I just kind of pressed just a little bit, pulled on it until it fit perfectly, and then with a hammer I just kind of hammered it in just so that it was nicely straight. And then again, stapling it, and I did use some brad nails, like I said, to secure the 3 boards together, as well as I just added a few more here and there on the sides. I'm going to place the spindle. I should have done this before, and I completely forgot. So now I'm a little nervous at this point. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So you're going to see here that some of the staples come off when I am hammering it. You're going to see it right about, I think it's now. See how it came off, and that's okay. I did, hammer it down, and it was fine. And then that's when I added the brad nails, as you can see, just to make sure everything was secure and tightened. But the spindle everything fit perfectly. So once I secured everything with a little bit more brad nails, then it's time to paint the outside of the toolbox. While I'm painting this, I do want to take a minute here. If you are enjoying this video and if you really enjoy my channel, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up. Giving me a thumbs up on my videos really help this channel and this video reach more people, and it helps me grow. So I really, really appreciate it if you did that for me. I did give everything 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. However, I'm not looking for perfection. I am going to distress it. I want it to have a very farmhouse look. So I am going to do as much coverage as possible. I did also paint the chicken wire, as you can tell. I usually do that with a dry brush technique. That way it's not like dripping on me, but I just wanted it to have a white finish. So here I'm just using my sanding block to kind of gently sand all over the place, just to kind of give it, again, a little farmhouse look to it. And remember the little chicken and the little piggy that I removed earlier. So we're going to reuse them. We're going to put them to one side of each side of the toolbox. And I'm going to secure them in place with brad nails. One's going to be on one side, one's going to be on the other, because I didn't want them to be on the same side and look a little bit like too cluttered. And that way the toolbox it's going to be decorative for flowers. So it can be placed facing one way or the other. And then I did place some greenery. It's just some regular greenery from Walmart, but it can certainly be used any season. So any fall decor coming up, I think would be great to place in here. And then Christmas, I think it's just usable year round. And I absolutely love, love, love the way this decorative toolbox turned out. For the next inspiration, we're going to take this Kirkland stacked pumpkin with a little tag that says Happy Fall. So we're going to start with some foam core again here from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to freehand the pumpkins. I don't mind. I actually enjoy this, just freehanding painting. If you followed me for a while, you know that every so often I like to create my own art. So this one was actually very satisfying for me and very entertaining, and I found it very relaxing as well. But I'm just going to let you watch here as I paint away, and hopefully you'll find it satisfying and enjoyable and entertaining. And then I'll chime in here and there. But I do want to let you know that this particular inspiration one from Kirkland was actually one that I was challenged. And we're just about done with the pumpkin. We just have to do the stem here. I'm going to use some brown acrylic paint and just paint it. I did have to cut off a little bit of the stem a little bit later. I don't show it because it didn't fit in my little frame that I created for it. And I'll show you how I made that frame. But I am going to use some of the white here and just add a few little details just to kind of mimic a little bit more of the original one. And then I'm going to make these little like curls that it had with brown paint. And I'm just going to go one on each side like the original piece had. And now it's time to start creating a frame for the sign for the pumpkins as the original had it. And I'm just going to use some of these painter sticks. These are the 25-gallon ones, and I'm just going to cut them to size to fit the pumpkin. And like I said, I cut it just a little too small where the little stem didn't fit quite perfectly, but that was okay. I made it work. So once I had all the pieces for the frame cut, I'm just going to staple them on the back side. So this is going to be the side where I have all the measuring kind of ruler thing. And this, because we're going to hot glue it facing down. So once I have the frame nicely done, then I'm going to use the frame and trace it on some foam board. And that's what we're going to use for the backing of the frame. Once I have it traced, I'll cut it with the X-Acto knife. Just like the original piece, it had a buffalo check black and white background. Now it's not exactly the same one I have, but this is what I had already on hand from Hobby Lobby. So I'm just going to hot glue it on the edges and cover the back. And then I'm going to use the rotary cutter and cut out the excess fabric so it's nicely trimmed. And now I am going to hot glue the frame right on top of the buffalo check background. And that's going to be sufficient again because it is foam core and it's really lightweight. So hot glue was plenty. Now I'm going to hot glue the pumpkin right inside of it. Again, just using hot glue, which was fine. And then we're going to add a few little extra details. The original piece had a tag that said Happy Fall, so I had this one that I happened to have purchased recently at Walmart. It was maybe about $1.50, something like that. It was not expensive at all. And I painted it white. While that's drying, I am going to freehand a little multiple loop bow using some jute string, like the original had as well. And I'm just going to tie it in the center. And then we're going to start writing, actually lining here, the tag just like the original had, like a little black border. So I'm just going to line the tag here, making it seem like a border. And then I'm going to freehand the words Happy Fall, just like the original piece had. And now it's time to attach it to the pumpkins. I'm just basically going to cut the excess string. I'm going to add some hot glue behind the stem. And I'm just going to push in the jute string right underneath it. And it'll attach perfectly. And it's going to look like it's hanging from the stem of the pumpkin. And after that, we are done, my friend. Oh my gosh, this one is one of my favorites today. Let me remind you what the original looked like. Beautiful, beautiful. And this is mine. I don't know, but I'm pretty proud of myself. I rarely say that, but when I do, it's because I really mean it. I had so much fun painting these pumpkins and creating all these shadows and the illusion of a stacked pumpkin set. I really love the way it turned out. So thank you, Adrian, for challenging me.
Alright, so we're out here in my garage and I'm going to take this 1x4 that I got actually recently in the scrap wood area, and it came in this size. It was already like this and I bought it for 25 cents. And I'm going to use it to create 4 pumpkins.
Once I had them cut to the size that I wanted, they're all in different sizes. I did angle the corners as well, but a little bit less of a cut because I didn't want them to have a tag look. I wanted to have more of a pumpkin look, if this is even a pumpkin look. I sanded them down just a little bit to remove any splinters and just to smooth them down. I also painted them using Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white, and I gave them also just one pretty heavy coat of the paint because we are going to distress them as well. And I just want it to be just very light and natural. I am using my palm sander once again and a 150 grit sandpaper, but really you could use a 180. It don't matter what you have. The palm sander is just an easy way to distress, remove some of that edging paint just in seconds, literally. Once I had it sanded down, I am going to drill a hole right on top of each pumpkin. If you follow me for a while, you know I love this technique to create pumpkins. I just drill a hole on the pumpkin, and then I did cut out 4 pieces of that driftwood that I used earlier, and I did angle cuts. That way the pumpkin stems are going to be angled instead of straight up. I also drilled a hole on them as well. Before I attach the stems to the pumpkins, I did decide to antique a little bit more the edges of the pumpkin just for a little bit more dimension and character. I'm using the same makeup sponge that I used to stencil earlier and the antiquing wax by Waverly. I love this antiquing wax. As a matter of fact, I'm almost out and I'm just going to have to order more because Walmart doesn't carry Waverly products anymore, which I'm sad. All right, so here we go. I'm going to take a screw stick and I'm just going to place it right in the hole after I place some hot glue right in it. And then I'm going to cut and just leave a tiny little piece, maybe 1/4 of an inch. That way we can use that to then place the stem right over it. Same thing with the stems. We're just going to place some hot glue right inside the hole. And in this case, I want it to really come out of the stem, the hot glue, so that way it has excess glue, and then attach the stem. Look how cute they look angled like that. I've never done that before. I've always just cut them straight, but I think adding that angled cut just made them look a lot more natural. Again, not that these look like real pumpkins. I gotta laugh at myself. All right, so now that they are pretty complete, I'm going to stack them right on top of each other. I saw something similar at Hobby Lobby, a lot bigger and looked quite different, but the principle of these stacked wooden pumpkins was the same. So that's where I got my inspiration from. So I'm just gonna brad nail them right on top of each other, leaving the taller ones in the back and the shorter ones to the front. But you can stack them however you want if you're going to recreate something similar to this. So the brad nails are 1-inch brad nails. They worked out perfectly for the thickness of the pumpkins. Now I'm going to take some more of that wired berries vine, and I'm just going to cut maybe about 10-inch long, wrap it around the stem, and this time I'm going to use a pencil to curl them, and that way it just looks nice and pretty. I would also like to connect with you on Instagram. If you have an Instagram page, I am posting all the time behind the scenes look, just different content that you may not normally see on my videos here on YouTube. So check it out. I do have the link to my Instagram page down below. Check it out, and I hope you follow me there as well. I am going to take one of these square dowels. They're about maybe a 1x1, and I'm going to give it one rough coat of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. I'm not looking for a perfect coat because I am going to be distressing it, and I am going to use my electric sander and a 120 grit sandpaper. I'm going to mainly focus on the little edges, but a little bit here and there everywhere else. Once that is done, I'm going to take some of these picks that I recently got at Target Dollar Spot. They were $3 each, and I thought they were maybe a little bit on the expensive side, but they were really good quality. So I'm going to start marking on the dowel where I want to drill a hole. I'm going to use my drill and a drill bit that matches the size of the stem of the picks. Now I'm going to start by kind of tilting. Well, I'm first going to start by drilling down a little bit, and then I'm going to tilt the drill so that the holes are actually made on an angle facing down, because we're going to make our own little kind of like a Christmas tree. So we're going to do the same thing all the way down until I have enough holes for all the picks. And you're going to start seeing that I'm going to place them and then drill, place them and drill. That way I know exactly where I want to drill them.
Let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing? In Christmas times.
I am now going to cut the stems where I need them, because of course I want to make sure that they're all about the same size. So I'm going to use one to measure, and then from that one I'm going to use that one to cut the rest of them. And then it's time to start really assembling the tree. So we're just going to place a little bit of hot glue on each hole, and then we're going to place the stem right in, all the way in, and then pressing down. I want the branches to kind of face down, and I'm going to do that all the way down. Now at the end I forgot to drill one more hole, so we're going to do that after the all the picks are in. And as you're going to notice, the branches are only going to be towards the side and the front. The back is going to be flat because I do want this to be a tree where you can place on a wall, like on a mantle, or maybe even a console table, and then have the picks just in the front and the sides. I'm going to use this leftover 2x4 that I had from a previous DIY that didn't sell, so I disassembled it and kept the pieces. I drilled a hole right in the middle as well as at the bottom of the tree. Now I'm going to screw in a screw that's going to be long enough to poke on the other side of the 2x4. And then I'm just going to screw in the tree, just like you see here, and tighten it as much as it's tightened. This is just going to be a base so that it doesn't fall. And it also just gives it a little bit of a weight on the bottom. So now we're just going to kind of look at the tree, and then I'm going to start separating the little branches, just kind of like where I want to see them. Just a little bit of fluff to add a little fluff to the tree.
And I can promise Santa's coming to visit. No, he wouldn't miss it.
I'm going to use some of this leftover faux fur that I got off of a Christmas tree skirt last year. I've used it in several DIYs already. But I'm going to cover up the front just a little bit. So we're going to hot glue it around and then cut the excess so that it looks nicely neat and finished. I thought it'd be really cool to use some of that same faux fur and just cover the bottom base so it looks like it's sitting on a nice bed of snow.
We'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the wind blows and the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart.
Once I trim the edges to make sure that it looks finished and clean cut, we're done. I love this handmade Christmas tree. I think it's perfect for any decor. And just think, you can do this with any picks you have. It doesn't have to have these from the Target dollar spot. It could be from anywhere, any picks, and you can make it as tall as you want. I think it's stunning. My next project is going to be with this sign. It is like a canvas style sign, but it has this really firm, very like sturdy base, and I feel like it has a wooden frame. So we are going to remove the canvas and see what's underneath. So I started by using my X-Acto knife because I thought I can just cut it right through and then pull it apart. But no, that canvas was like high-end. It would not come off. So then I flipped it over and then started removing all the 20,000 staples it had on the back. Yes, I'm exaggerating, but it did feel like it. It was so many and they were placed so tightly that it took me a while. So I sped it up here for you quite a bit. And then, of course, you have to remove all the staples with a clippers, and gosh, this took forever. But nonetheless, we got through it, and I am cutting the canvas off, and now we have this beautiful frame on a stand. Now, I didn't realize it had that middle, like, bar, so I did want to remove that. So I kind of, like, pulled it apart a little bit, and then using my clippers or my wire cutters, I just cut it, and then it came off, and it was perfect. So it was actually pretty sturdy without it. Once it was off, I gave everything a good scrub, and then we are going to fill in the back with some wood filler. This is because it had all these holes from all the staples that it had, and I wanted to have a little bit more of a finished high-end look. So I filled it in with some wood filler, and we are going to let that dry for a couple of hours. It doesn't take long. Now I'm going to take this nativity set that I recently got at the Dollar General, and I am going to cut off the little manger part of it. So like the little house part of it, I'm just going to cut it off. And then I'm going to sand down the edges so they look smooth and finished and not like it was something attached to it. Then I'm going to stain all the pieces using Rust-Oleum chalked glaze in the brown tone. Now that the wood filler is dry, I am going to sand it down using my electric sander, just enough where it just is smooth. It doesn't require much when it's wood filler, but all the holes were filled and everything was nicely finished, and I loved it. Now I'm going to give everything 2.5 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. After everything was dry, it was time to place the nativity set right inside the frame. I am going to use a combination of Fix All glue from the Dollar Tree as well as hot glue. So I want that permanent hold, but also a very quick hold so that I can get it done. So the Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus are going to be right in the center. And then I'm going to spread apart all the other pieces all around the sides or on each side of the main piece.
We've been good, but we can last. Hurry Christmas, hurry now. I can't wait to see what's under the Christmas tree for you and me. Oh, little bear toys that cuddle and woo, dinosaurs, boats, and kitty cats too. Santa Claus is coming. I know that Santa Claus is coming.
Now we have this beautiful base right underneath everything. So I am going to add some greenery. So I'm going to just place one staple, and then I'm going to just thread all the other decor, at least the greenery picks, right through it so that it is sturdy enough. And we're going to add some hot glue here in a little bit because we're going to add some other embellishments. But I just thought a staple would be easy enough to kind of get everything in there and then hot glue these smaller pieces on top. I'm going to use some pine cones, little bells, some red berries, just a combination of different things from the Dollar Tree as well as Amazon that I get, like those picks. And it's going to have a very finished look.
Wake up with a smile. The feeling is right today. Magic in the air, 'cause something
We're just about done with this one. I'm just going to add one bell here at the end because I just thought it just needed a little bit something else. It's going to be a silver one, and we're done. I love the way this nativity set looks. I think it has a very festive but like a farmhouse chic look, and actually already sold. So I'm so excited about it. I love it, love it, love it. And this is it for today, my friend. What a wonderful year 2021 has been. I'm so thankful and grateful for you for watching me and coming along with me and encouraging me and just growing together. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know in the comments which one of these was your favorite. You are visiting for the first time, welcome. I hope this gives you a lot of inspiration and a glimpse of what my channel is all about, and I hope you consider joining our YouTube family. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back week after week. I truly appreciate you. I'm going to have a playlist here as well as a video with tons more of inspiration for you. Feel free to click on them and watch more. Have a blessed New Year's, and I'll see you in 2022. Bye.
I got you on my mind.